Good evening, family. Good evening. Welcome to another Marriage Monday Night with Nick and Trina Brinson. Just trying something new with the soft music playing in the background, which is CC Winans, Never Lost, and that's our God. So we just want to thank y'all for coming in tonight and showing up as we kick off a topic tonight that is always a good topic to talk about, which is communication. And we've talked about, how the benefits of actually communicating well in your relationship will help you. Tonight we're going to address the styles of communication. And we're going to talk individually about those. There's 4 different styles we're going to talk about. So when everyone has a chance to log on, we'll go into the lesson. I just want to say hello to my brother, my friend, my deacon chairman, Mr. Charles Brown. Thank you for tuning in, sir.
And his wife.
Brinson.
We're going to go ahead and share. So if you can do that as well, share this event, this Facebook Live event, with as many people as you can. Hello, Miss Lanika Michelle. See who else is coming in. We got Miss Jamie Bush. Very good.
Yeah.
Name we see almost every week. So we appreciate y'all checking us out just to see what we're talking about. So we hope it's helpful to you. That's really what our goal is, to help assist you in improving skills that will help support your marriage. We don't have all the answers, but we do have some.
Right.
And so we want to offer to you the benefit of our experience, the benefit of how we've grown within our own church ministry, and hope that it can benefit you as well as others. So if you'll go ahead and share this broadcast with others, that'll be a way of you assisting others and building their relationship as well.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Let's see who else up. Myra Christian, Cynthia Steele. Excuse me. So we appreciate you all for tuning in. We're just kind of letting people trickle in before we get started on our topic tonight. I don't think it'll take us a long time to discuss the topic we have, but it is a topic that will make a difference if you implement the adjustments to your communication, which is what we'll be talking about tonight, is communication styles. And so these minor adjustments, sometimes just knowing or being aware of something about yourself can give you enough of a boost for you to make some adjustments. Because a lot of times we do things mindlessly, right, and we're just not aware that something is ineffective, or we're not aware that there's a different way for us to go about doing and being in relationship. So we want to thank our pastor, Bishop Bush, and Lady Denise Bush for offering us this platform to do the ministry work that we've been assigned to do, which is, of course, ministering to couples to help strengthen relationships. We have been the benefactor of such ministry.
Right.
And so we want to pay it forward, so to speak, pass it on. We don't ask anything in return other than that you also share with others. If you would like to donate to our church ministry, or even to the marriage ministry as a part of the church ministry, you're always welcome to do that. From time to time, we like to offer trips or activities for couples, and sometimes there are costs involved in that. So anytime you want to donate, you just donate to our church ministry, which is the page that we are broadcasting from now. Crown Kingdom Cultural Center is our church ministry, with Bishop Finish Bush Jr. being our pastor. So just want to make sure you go to the right place to give a donation. So we're not asking for it, but if you would like to be a blessing to the ministry, we do appreciate it, and it would go for that purpose as well. So,
all right. So with that said, we just want to continue welcoming people in. Miss Sheena
and Johnny Law.
Yep. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. With that said, we want to start the lesson that we have prepared for you all tonight. And it comes in the form of communication styles. Is your style of communicating in your relationship, is it helping or is it hurting? We're going to talk about 4 styles tonight that will surely get you and your partner talking. Maybe if y'all implement what we talk about tonight. So, you know, and we've also discussed amongst ourselves that even the 4 styles, you kind of use them all at some point, but you know, there's one particular style that just elevates the relationship if you use it correctly. So
it's about building up your skills for communicating.
So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is called passive communication. Passive communication is a style of communication that avoids allowing that person not to address their honest needs in a relationship. What I mean by honest needs, if we're talking about something and I'm not addressing my needs in that situation and she's just always getting her way, I am being passive in this relationship because I'm not addressing my needs in the conversation. And what happens, that particular person who's a passive communication tends to get ran over a lot and act like a doormat in a relationship. But after a while, when that person has been done like that for a while, there's a buildup of resentment that can happen. And when that resentment builds up, that experience is going to have to come out. It's going to have to do something with all that resentment and anger that has built up because you're not getting what you need from the relationship. All you're just being is a dispenser. I mean, people are just pouring into you what they think, and you're just going along with it. So it's really not healthy at times to be a passive communication. This style right here probably needs to be used as least as possible. But like me and my wife were discussing, sometimes it's best to just let things go until it cool down, and that could be a way of looking at something being passive. But you should always not use this one if you're not getting your needs met in a relationship.
Okay. Say that again. You
shouldn't use this one.
Should not
use this if you're not getting your needs met in a relationship.
Okay. So the thing about passive communication is if that's your primary way of communicating, then it does in fact become a problem because you are not expressing, there's no fairness, there's no equality. If you're always serving the needs of the person and their wants and desires are always at the forefront and yours are not, that's an imbalance that leads to a one-sided relationship. And that's not happy you're not in a happy marriage if you're constantly the fall guy, or if you're constantly having to always be in the background and on the back burner, and the other person's needs are always trumping yours.
Right. So
you have to get to a point to where you both are able to express what your needs are, and that together you find a way to address those needs. And that can't be done if you don't make those needs known. What's that song? Lean on Me. No one can feel those of your needs that you don't let show. Mm-hmm. That song, Lean on Me. And that's such a true statement. You have to be vulnerable enough to say, this is what I need, or this is how I feel. These are the goals that I want us to look at addressing in our marriage. And so that way it doesn't become a point of competition between the two. It's a matter of conversation,
right,
not competition. And so speak up. Very often women fall into that pattern of passiveness, unfortunately, because the church has taught has mistaught very often the teachings in the Bible about marriage. And so often it is interpreted and taught to the people that as a wife, that your voice is not as important as your husband's. You're just supposed to always, we misuse that term, submit. And very often the message that comes across to a woman is that she's supposed to just back down, not have a voice in the marriage, be in the background, go along to get along, or that, the husband's needs or the husband's thoughts are primary. And in fact, a godly husband will take into consideration that wife's needs and wants, and will serve that family by considering that wife's her need, what she has expressed that she needs, so that it's a place of safety as a wife.
Right.
When you have a husband who will take into consideration your thoughts, your priorities, and then he makes them those priorities his as well. So that in the course of decision making, it's not just about what serves the husband. That would be a very selfish leader. And throughout the Bible, God constantly teaches us through the example of Jesus how to be a servant leader. And as a husband, it's the responsibility of that husband to be a servant leader. But if you don't speak up as a wife, then you really don't have a leg to stand on and trying to blame that husband for you feeling unfulfilled or for your needs not being met in that relationship. You have to be able to speak up and not be so passive.
And one point to make about these communication styles, most of them you learn as you're growing up in your environment with your family.
Right.
If you're in a household where the father's voice is so strong, you learn how to yield to that voice of a man, not in a good way sometimes, but in a way of just saying, I don't want to be the target of his emotions, or I don't want to cause ripples in a relationship. Mm-hmm. That's not good. I'm not telling you to cause arguments. That's not what we're doing. But I'm telling you to make your point and saying, things that will actually help the relationship out. Not being a stepping stool. And you step what? What'd you say?
Stepping stone?
Stepping stone for that man or in that relationship.
Doormat.
So, don't let yourself don't let your ideas and your point be deferred because you're trying to escape being the target in the relationship.
Yeah, that's not healthy. So the flip side of being passive is being too aggressive.
Right.
And that is a style of communicating, is aggressive communication. And I need to borrow your paper right here. Oh, no, I don't. I got it right here. Don't I?
Yeah, you got it right there.
Okay. So an aggressive communication style is a type of characterized by a person expressing their needs, wants, opinions, and rights in a way that crosses the boundary of others who they are communicating with. So, we talked about how important it is for you to express your needs. But the problem comes in is when you violate the boundaries of your spouse in the course of you expressing that.
Right.
And so when you're expressing your needs gets to the point that you're yelling, belittling, or demeaning your spouse, that's a boundary that should not be crossed. Or when your expression of your thoughts intimidates the other person so that they don't even feel they have a safe space for them to say something different from what you said.
Right.
And so it almost can get to be like bullying to some degree. And so you have to be mindful not to be aggressive. And sometimes people are passive for so long that they flip to the other extreme and become aggressive. So our goal tonight is to make you aware of these different communication styles so that you can then monitor yourself and how you are communicating with your spouse and with others.
Right.
Not just your spouse. It is very important within your marriage relationship to learn how to communicate effectively, but also in relationship with your friends, your coworkers, and even with your children. It is important to learn this skill of how to choose your communication style.
Right. And just talking about relationships, dealing in the coaching world, that's my profession. I always had this saying, because you say it louder, don't make it right. Because you say it loud and more angry, don't mean I'm going to go along with it. You just sound like a yelling loud fool to me. And maybe that right there may create some tension between me and the other person. But because you're raising your voice and saying it louder, that don't make it right. That don't make me want to go along with it. So, always be in a mindset to, if you encounter an aggressive person, if you don't feel safe in that environment, get out. Leave that environment. If they're angry all the time when you want to have something to say, that is not a situation you want to be in. But, some people get in that situation not knowing sometimes. And, if you're with an aggressive person, you may need to get out of that situation for your own safety.
Yeah, well, if it gets to be abusive, some people are aggressive verbally, but not necessarily to the point of abuse. Because you can be aggressive in a moment and not necessarily be an abusive person.
Yeah. A verbally abusive person is almost as bad as being punched by somebody, I think. But, if you get into that situation where the person is verbally abusive, maybe it's time to leave the situation, not necessarily leave the person, but get out the situation until that person calm down and you can come back and visit the conversation later.
Yeah. And often if people have aggressive communication style, it is the result of how they have learned to communicate. For whatever has transpired in their lives that has led to that type of, they're feeling the need to be aggressive or forceful and getting their opinions across. You have to take into consideration that there may be a reason that they've used that style of communication. Maybe that worked for a period of time. We have to always think back to what people bring with them into the marriage relationship, particularly from their childhood. Mm-hmm. And so if you lived in a situation to where you felt that that was the only way for you to be heard, then as a child, you may have developed that skill of communicating with aggression for the sake of being heard. Same thing about being passive. You may have learned that there's no need in you to speak up because your opinions don't matter. So perhaps you've taken on a passive way of communicating. Mm-hmm. So it's time to learn a different way of communicating. You might not have known as a child how to make that better, or you may not have even been aware that that was an issue. But as an adult, and particularly as a married adult, you have the power to work on yourself and to figure out if you are overusing any one particular style of communication that is damaging to your relationship. Mm-hmm. So the next one we're going to talk about, the next type of communication is?
The next communication is a combination of both that we just talked about. It's called passive-aggressive communication. And it is a style which a person appears to be acting appropriately on the surface, but underneath is acting out and speaking in hostile ways or acting in hostile ways. An example of this is, shaming, blaming, criticisms, making you statement versus I statements, a hostile attitude, masked anger, sarcasm, taking a superiority stance in a situation. An example of that would be if me and Trina was discussing something and I don't necessarily agree with her and really don't tell her I don't agree, but I do things like procrastinate. I'll get to it later. Do you really think this going to happen like that, the way you explain that? With the sarcasm and the procrastination and just not doing it because you don't agree with it. But you agreed to it. You absolutely agreed to doing what was discussed. But then you do things and had no intentions on doing it. That's it. And that right there can cause some issues in the relationship, and it leaves the other person in a position like, I don't know what to do with the information you just gave me. Did you agree with it or did you disagree with it? And then you can say something, well, I agree with it, but I didn't tell you I was going to do it then, or I just thought, it passed by. Those are things that a passive-aggressive person would do in a relationship. Not necessarily cause ripples up front, but may want to try to frustrate the other person to not want to go through with what we agreed on, so they actually get their way from not doing it.
Shady.
All day. Mm-hmm. So, that kind of person makes it hard to deal with. And, you can't know what's going on underneath because that person is really not expressing themselves. So you're one of those people that you don't say nothing, but you are passive.
And it really is aggressive.
It really is. Yeah, it is.
You look soft and innocent on the outside, but it's a dig, mm-hmm. And it's almost like, cutting somebody's feet out from under them, and it causes an instability in the relationship. It's like, well, I don't know if I should trust what you say or not.
Yep, sabotage.
Yeah, it is. It's a form of sabotage. And we all know people who tend to be kind of passive aggressive, and that certainly doesn't make for a comfortable relationship, to be in a relationship or have to deal with somebody who's passive aggressive. It makes you not want to communicate with them.
Right. Yeah, these people can be very manipulative in their mm-hmm. in the way that they operate. Yeah. And you've seen it from afar. You probably done seen it up close. You may be one of the people in the marriage that may be passive aggressive. So this is one of those communication styles that can cause issues as time goes along. Mm-hmm. So we're learning how to express ourselves where both of us get what we want, But in a passive aggressive communication style, it's still only one person getting what they want by making the other person feel comfortable in a decision that seemed to have been made. But underneath, I really don't agree with that, and I'm not going to do it. They made their mind up.
Shady.
They are. Okay.
All right. So what we submit to you is that those three types of three styles of communication are typically ineffective,
right,
within a marriage relationship. And so we want to offer to you the challenge to work towards being more assertive. And assertive communication style is, I don't know why I keep wanting to look on your paper. Assertive communication is a style where an individual clearly states their needs, wants, and they advocate for their rights in an open and honest way that is respectful of the other person's boundaries. And furthermore, it is open to negotiation and influence by others. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest difference between the previous three the communication styles versus assertive. Being assertive, you are being direct. You're being very clear. You are stating what your needs are, and you're advocating, for those needs, but you do not cross the other person's boundaries. There's a level of respect that is maintained, and it's not because you can act like you're respecting somebody, but you're really not. That falls into that passive aggressive category, and the sarcasm. That's all, part of being aggressive or passive aggressive. But when you're being assertive, you truly are stating what your needs are. You're listening to that other person's needs, and you're able to negotiate because your true intent is for both of you to come to a place of peace. So you have to be willing to negotiate. You have to be willing to care about your spouse's needs as well as care enough about your own needs to make sure that those are being presented as part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, being a health teacher, by using this style, there's a win-win negotiation style here. Meaning, what we've discussed, both of us we're going to do, we feel comfortable with everything we talked about, and we're going to do our part to it. Or we agree to let her do it, or she agreed to let me do it. But what the main thing is agreement, right, and a peaceful solution. Now, just like anything else, if you can't come to a peaceful solution, table the discussion and keep the conversation assertive. Now, when we leave a situation where we can't come to an agreement, we table it, come back to it later, have another discussion about it.
Pray
and by
about
that time,
in between. You can't miss that step. During that time that the two of you are apart, it is critical that you spend some individual time on that situation in prayer. Sometimes you need to get some counsel from a trusted resource, somebody who has your best interest. And we've talked about who are good mentors, right? But you really do have to be careful with who's in your ear when you're in a marriage. But that might be a time you might need to hear a different perspective or hear some possible solutions from someone who you trust to be of counsel to you. So use that time apart, not just as time, but for you to do work individually. Marriage is largely about individual work as well as it is the work you do together. Sometimes we think that marriage is only about the two, the union of two, and it really is. But the union of two involves individuals. You don't have a joint unit without those two individuals. And you are always working on yourself as an individual inside of the marriage. Right. Everything should support the union, but you cannot neglect your individual growth.
Nope. You're always working on individual growth as you're working on being one. Right. Like I told, we were talking to a couple of weeks ago at Evergreen, and I told them that marriage is not a fairy tale. It does not follow that line. Marriage is a work details. So you got to learn how to work out the details in your marriage in order for it to be peaceful. And this is one way that you can do it is by learning how to communicate assertively. And when you're communicating assertively, and some of y'all know this word being assertive. being assertive don't mean being mean and being getting your way and doing things in a way that gets you what you want. Being assertive means talking in a calm voice, listening while the other person is talking, have good eye contact, have good control of your feelings. Use those I statements or I feel like, you know, those are things that help with bringing your marriage to peace.
And you have better chances of getting what you want in the relationship when you are honest about what you want and you're able to bring that perspective into the conversation.
Right.
You're going to be more satisfied with the final decision, and your spouse as well, because your spouse wants you to benefit as well, just like you want your spouse to benefit from the decisions that are made. But you can't have your needs met if you don't voice those, and if you aren't sure of those. Sometimes people don't know what they want. You know, they're just unsatisfied and they don't know what they want. That means you need to do some individual work. You got to work on you so that you can sort out what it is you really want and how you can communicate that, and how that makes you better and stronger for the relationship. The relationship automatically gets stronger when one member of the relationship works on themselves to become a stronger, more confident, you know, higher self-esteem. When you work on those things individually, it automatically makes the marriage better.
It does. So, you know, that last one that we talked about, you know, assertive communication is a lesson all in itself. And maybe one day we'll do just an assertive means of how to communicate with your spouse and what you should do and some of the pitfalls that may happen if you try this. But, you know, from all the communication styles, the four that we've talked about tonight, assertive is by far the best way to get understanding,
that's the goal,
union, and have peace in your marriage.
Yeah, that's the goal to work on, is how to communicate assertively and effectively. And that's your best chance. When you have both partners being using assertive communication, meaning that you are not overstepping your boundaries as a person with your spouse, and also even positionally with one another, that you're not overstepping those boundaries, but you are being very open and honest about what it is that you want. It makes it so much easier for the two of you to come to a place of peace and agreement, which really is the goal of marriage.
Right.
Is peace.
So with that said, you got anything, any closing remarks?
I do not.
Wow. Well, we went right about to 7:30 tonight. And at this time, we just want to thank y'all for tuning in with us tonight. When our show first came on tonight, we we were listening to CC Winans. Your God never fails. He always wins. Your God always wins. So, with that said, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all.
Good night.